Welcome to Gluten-Free Unwrapped, the podcast that takes you inside the stories of the founders, CEOs, and influencers who make the gluten-free industry tick. Whether you're living a gluten-free lifestyle, building a brand, or just love a behind-the-scenes look at how your favorite products came to be, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Jenny Fink, and this is Gluten-Free Unwrapped. Today on Gluten-Free Unwrapped, I'm excited to welcome Jessica Mindell, founder of Jessica's Natural Foods, a beloved brand known for its delicious gluten-free granola and baking mixes. Jessica started her company in 2009 after her husband was diagnosed with gluten intolerance. Fueled by a passion for baking and a desire to make gluten-free food that actually tastes good, she created a granola that quickly gained a loyal following and today is found in grocery stores nationwide. Jessica's Natural Foods is making it easier and tastier for people to eat gluten-free, and today we get to unwrap her business journey. So Jessica, welcome to Gluten-Free Unwrapped. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
I love it. We've been working together and exchanging emails for the past year. Jessica's been featured in our Love Me Gluten-Free subscription boxes a few times. So I actually am getting to see her face to face today for the first time on this podcast. So thank you so much, Jessica.
No, thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, let's get started. I want to hear your story and how you got into this gluten-free granola business, where it all, where the idea came from. So I'm going to turn it over to you.
Yeah, no, thank you. So, I started my business back in 2009. And to my knowledge, I was the first gluten-free oat-based granola on the market. And the reason for starting my business, kind of like what you said, is my husband was gluten intolerant, couldn't find any gluten-free oat-based granolas. And back then, I don't know if you remember, the granolas were more like corn flaky if they were gluten-free. So, and if you're a granola lover like me, it just doesn't quite cut it. So I started making granola for my husband, and he's like, you know what, there's nothing like this on the market. And so I kind of took the leap, quit my job, and started my business.
Oh, that's amazing. And anyone who's had Jessica's granola, it's got like big chunky clusters in it. It's definitely the granola that you know and love, and not some of this kind of made up stuff that people call granola today. So let's back up a little bit. So your husband is diagnosed with a gluten intolerance. How did that come about?
So he's never actually been tested for celiac or anything. Way back when he started getting eczema, and he tried different things and he cut out gluten and he found, his stomach actually felt a lot better. And so he thought it was just kind of normal to have stomach aches periodically, never realizing that it was gluten. And so it really just helped a bunch of things for him.
Okay. And were you newly married at the time, or had you been married a while?
No, we got married in 2006. So yeah, we were pretty newly married I feel like maybe it was on our honeymoon when he got the eczema. And I was already interested in alternate grains and healthy eating and things like that. So I'd kind of suggested to him, hey, why don't you try cutting out gluten and kind of see if it helps? And he was like, oh my God, my stomach feels better. Like, who knew? Thought that like everybody had stomach aches. So that was just kind of a normal part of living.
And you were not gluten-free at the time, but you had just known about that gluten could help his stomach aches.
I mean, I didn't even to be honest, he hadn't even really mentioned the stomach aches. I just has suggested it for the eczema because I know gluten can lead with inflammation and things like that. I was just kind of interested in my own little research and trying different ingredients and different grains. So I just kind of been reading a lot, and it was just something you're just chatting, and you're like, hey, why don't you just try cutting out gluten? Didn't really think anything of it, didn't think he'd listen to me. And he did, and he just felt so much better. So yeah, he's been gluten-free ever since.
That's amazing. I love that. Just sometimes that's how we stumble upon it, through trial and error, and we figure out, hey, that worked. Okay, so he actually said to you, you need to package this granola, right? So he was actually the catalyst that encouraging you to start this business. Is that right? And how did you know anything about starting a food business when he said that to you?
Yeah, no, I knew nothing about starting a food business. I always had a passion for healthy eating and baking. I was always kind of concocting things in my kitchen, but it was really I have to give him the credit. It was his idea. He was like, you know what, there's nothing like this on the market. I'm gluten free. I wish I had like real granola. I'm sure there's other people like me. So I kind of took the leap, quit my job, had no experience, and just kind of learned as I went.
Wow. Okay, so what were you doing at the time that you quit your job? What was that job?
Yeah, so that last job was market research. So it's kind of funny. I feel like everything I've done has kind of like helped me to where I'm at. So like I have an engineering degree, so I learned like how to do Excel spreadsheets and different things. And then I worked in consulting and software validation, and then I was doing market research at the time. So weirdly, I feel like all these different things from different parts of my life really kind of came together, taught me how to do PowerPoints, how to understand financials. So I had like more of the business side of it, but not the baking side of it. So I actually worked at, I don't know if you've ever heard of Zingerman's. It's like a really well-known Michigan bakery. And so I worked for them one holiday season from like 4 at night till like 1 in the morning, just kind of they weren't a gluten-free bakery, but just getting hands-on bakery experience. Cause I always felt like if you're going to go into an industry, you have to have worked in it. So I did that, and that was a really amazing experience to kind of really see how a well-run bakery works.
Oh, wow. Okay, so you quit your engineering job. You went to work the midnight or the overnight shift in a bakery just to learn more about food
Mhm.
and baking.
Mhm.
Okay, so that's so fascinating. I haven't ever
Mhm.
heard of that before. So I love that. I love that you were just trying to get some hands-on experience. So, okay, so you have this granola that your husband likes that you make. You're getting some baking experience in the bakery. How did you then get into this, CPG world of, consumer packaged goods and actually packaging this up and selling it? What was that like?
So yeah, back then it was a real challenge because gluten-free was so new. So I didn't have the money to open my own facility. And from also working at Zingerman's, I kind of realized that I don't know how to fix a machine if it breaks down. I just don't have a lot of those skills. So I looked for a contract manufacturer, which is someone who I can take my formulas and my recipes, and I would kind of be there helping them make the granola. So finding a facility, I really wanted a dedicated gluten-free facility. And back then, there was very, very limited options. So that was probably one of the hardest parts was really trying to research and find a facility. But I just kind of like did research as I went, and there were great mentors and resources I used, and so that's kind of how I figured out my next steps and found some place where I could make it.
Wow. Like, did you have any funding or were you bootstrapping this? How did that work?
So, yeah, I was very fortunate. My great grandfather had left me a little bit of money when he passed. So I really used that to start. I mean, I was very like bare bones. I did everything myself. And I remember interesting stories early on before I started my business, but I was probably getting ready to launch it in like a couple weeks. Somebody recommended I talk to this company that specializes in launching new businesses. And I talked to them, and they're like, you need like a minimum of $500,000 to launch a brand. Otherwise, you have like no chance. And I remember getting off the phone and being panicked because I'm like, I just have this like little bit of money. And at that point, it was too late, which was kind of lucky for me to abandon my idea because I really left the call feeling like, oh my God, like I don't have a chance. I mean, I just had like a small little money to kind of begin production and get things going. And so I guess I was lucky I didn't listen to them. And I would go around, I do all my own deliveries, I did all my own demos. I was there helping make the product. I was putting stickers on the bags. I mean, I was really kind of just doing everything myself, kind of as like how a small business starts.
And you didn't need a $500,000, I assume.
No, thank God. I mean, I had like $25,000 to start. So
Okay.
very small amount. And it would basically help me order my ingredients and my packaging because you have to pay for all that up front. And then you sell it to the grocery store. And then it takes can be like 60, 90 days before they pay you because all the kind of the process. So you really just kind of need some money to cover you to be able to order the ingredients. So yeah, besides that, I was doing like everything myself and really trying to be as low cost and innovative as possible.
Yeah, I like to call it scrappy, you
Exactly. I was totally
gotta
scrappy.
totally scrappy. And then I just thinking today, and not that I want to fast forward your story too much here, but are you still scrappy or have you taken on investors?
I decided early on not to take on investors. And it's kind of interesting. When I started, investors wasn't like the big thing like it is now, which was probably good in hindsight because I've seen so many businesses who take on investors and grow and sell their business for millions or billions of dollars. But at the same time, I've also seen companies who took on investors and their businesses are gone. Like there was a woman I knew who had a company, a great local business. They took on investors and they just lost control of the company. And she was kind of left with nothing. So I feel like with my personality type, I like kind of being small, being in control, and being able to make the decisions if I want to like and use whatever high quality ingredients I want, and I don't have to kind of listen to others and maybe sacrifice myself for the quality that I want to create.
It's probably part of the charm and why your products are so good. So what was the first flavor or the first product that sort of started it all?
Yeah, I originally launched back in 2009 with three flavors. I had my vanilla maple, chocolate chip, because I'm not really a coffee drinker and I love chocolate for breakfast. So I was like, why not put some chocolate in my granola? So I did a chocolate chip granola, and it's kind of unique because there's a chocolate melted into it. And then I did an almond cherry granola. Being from Michigan, we're really known for our Traverse City dried cherries. And I always kind of grew up like, why eat raisins when you can have dried cherries? So that was kind of the inspiration for my first three flavors.
Okay. So which was the flavor you were making your husband that he said you gotta package
I
this up?
know.
Do you
Probably
remember?
the maple because it's kind of like my basic. It was probably my vanilla maple or my almond cherry. And then when he's like, you need to package it up, I'm like, I'm putting chocolate in this for me. So,
I love it. I love it. And when you were in the bakery working that midnight shift, did you get
mhm.
ideas? Like, did it help you come up with different flavors or concepts for Jessica's?
No, I was actually making like eclairs, filling eclairs and making different fillings and stuff. So it's totally different, but just seeing kind of like how you manage a bakery, oversee people, cleaning, all the processes and everything. So it was really just a fascinating
Mm.
experience. It was exhausting, but it was a great hands-on experience.
Wow. Okay, so you're in your co-packer and they're actually helping you package this. So what were some of your early sales, some of the early challenges you had in actually getting it from this co-manufacturer to store shelves or people's hands? I don't know. I don't know how you got people to actually hear about you and buy it.
So yeah, I just kind of started. I went to my favorite local stores. One thing that's interesting about Michigan is we have a lot of independent retailers, which is really great. So I went to my favorite local stores. I literally had no idea what I was doing. I brought them like a bag of each flavor and said, "Hey, I'm a local business. Would you maybe be interested in trying this and carrying it?" And then some of them were like, "We'll get back to you, whatnot." And one store is like, "Sure, I'll take a case of each." And I just kind of looked at them. I'm like, okay. I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't have product with me. So I had to like go back, pick up the product, create an invoice. I had no idea how to create an invoice. I'm frantically trying to like Google, like, how do you create an invoice? And I just kind of dropped it off and went from there.
Wow. Okay. And did it sell well or how did that
It did.
go?
Yeah, no, we were really lucky. Yeah, I was just really lucky. It sold well, they reordered, and then you kind of build. So like you're like, oh, well, X, Y, and Z store carries it that's local. And they're like, oh, well, then we'll carry it too. We'll try it. And I'd kind of offer like, if it doesn't sell, I'll buy it back. There's no risk. So it just kind of grew like that.
I agree like that. And then when did you make that leap from, these mom and pop shops in Michigan to like, I think, aren't you in like Whole Foods and Target and all these different grocery stores across the country in the US? How did
Mhm.
you make that leap? Did you go to a show? What was a breakthrough moment there?
Yeah, again, I feel like the things were so different back then, but I love shopping at Whole Foods. So I kind of went into my local Whole Foods, just like I did the other stores. And I was like, I have this new granola. Would you consider carrying it? I don't even know if you can do that anymore, to be honest. I feel like everything's changed so much, but they were like, I had to get approved through corporate, but they're like, sure, we'll try it. So I literally was just sold like in my local few stores near my house and just kind of expanded from there. I got into some stores in Chicago, and I feel like my biggest kind of aha moment was one store. The man who ran it, Isaac, was like incredible. And he's like, I'll take like 80 cases of each flavor. And I looked at
Uh-huh.
him and I'm like, 80 cases? Like, you mean like 80 bags? Like, I was so confused. He's like, nope, I'll take 80 cases. And I was like, oh my God, I literally spent a week making granola, and that's like everything I make in one order.
Wow.
So that was kind of like an amazing, I remember I was like so excited but freaking out because I was like, okay, like they believe in it. And it was like a whole week's worth of production. So it was a little overwhelming.
Wow. And you were baking it or you had your manufacturer baking it? Like what was going
So
on?
yeah, so I was actually the place I was making it was in Chicago. So I would drive there for a week and make it with her team. So we would kind of make it together. That way it was very hands-on. I was overseeing everything. I was helping make the granola, package the granola, everything. And literally, like I said, like everything I'd made in that week, they ordered in like one order.
Wow, that's amazing. I would
Mhm.
be like, wait, what? 80 cases? So,
Exactly.
and did those 80 cases sell? Did he reorder?
Yeah, I mean, he like was amazing and new and he like put it on display and it like sold. And so yeah, it just kind of like grew from there. So
Wow. So I know you started in 2009 and gluten-free was sort of becoming more common and
mhm,
it's obviously much more common today. But what was the gluten-free landscape at the time? I mean, were there other granolas? Were there other products out there? Did you feel it was real competitive? I feel like today it might be more
right.
competitive, but what was it like back
Yeah.
then?
It was totally different. I feel like I said, in my knowledge, I was actually the first gluten-free oat-based granola on the market. So there was really nothing like that out there. There was way less product options in general. And I feel like the market's just changed tremendously. I mean, back then, I feel like gluten-free oats were really kind of new. The people were kind of dipping their toe into it. And yeah, I mean, I feel like back then, Enjoy Life's been a great company. They were around back then, but I feel like a lot of the companies weren't around or aren't still around. It was
Yeah,
kind of a state of
right.
transition.
And like going back to what you were saying before with investors, they could sometimes even ruin a company. I mean,
Mhm.
Enjoy Life, you brought them up. They
Mhm.
were really popular back then, but
Mhm.
they kind of, I mean, semi are not even in business. I think you can only find their chocolate chips anymore. A lot of their other stuff had shut down. So anyway, that's a whole
Right.
other story for sure. But you had brought up oats, and we're us gluten-free folk, we love to talk about ingredients, and oats is definitely a controversial ingredient in gluten-free land. And so I'm curious how you source your oats and what steps you took because like you said back in 2009, 2010, people were still a little bit scared of oats and just for people who may not realize it who aren't gluten-free, oats are grown in the same fields with wheat. And so while oats are considered gluten-free, they are cross-contaminated and a manufacturer needs to sort and wash them and make sure they're safe and truly gluten-free by the time they get into your products. And so how did you go about sourcing oats and looking into a good provider?
Yeah, so a few things. I looked for a purity protocol supplier, which means that those oats are actually grown on dedicated fields, processed on dedicated equipment. There weren't a lot of options. I was getting my oats from Canada. I also made sure to get an oat that was certified gluten-free from the GFCO. So that was additional testing that they did. And then we also do finished product testing on every lot of our granola to test for the presence of gluten. And our granola is made in a dedicated gluten-free facility. So we've always taken a lot of measures to really ensure that the oat is gluten-free. And for instance, like when I first started, like our oat was a certified gluten-free protocol oat, but now we use an organic certified gluten-free protocol oat. And people years ago would be like, well, why don't you use an organic oat? And I was like, it's literally not available. So that's been one of the great things is as it's become more mainstream, there's been more options, and now we're able to use an organic and gluten-free oat. So there's no
Wonderful.
glyphosate and all those issues. So
I
yeah.
love I love that. And I think people may not realize, but oats just do enhance the flavor and texture of a lot of like baked goods and things like that. Had you experimented with oat-free granola and did you find any differences?
I've never tried oat-free granola because I happen to love oats and I love traditional granola. So when I started my business, me being not gluten-free, I really wanted to make a product that tastes as good as regular granola. And like, by the way, it's gluten-free. So I had already kind of done the research and knew that certified gluten-free oats were safe and did all the additional testing. So I really kind of focused on the oat-based ones that I felt
Yeah.
like more delicious than like the cornflake or the wannabe granola.
Yeah. I mean, there is a difference. I've sampled a
Mhm.
lot and I definitely love the formula and the ingredients that you
Yeah.
use in Jessica. It's so good. Okay, so you're also a certified woman-owned business. And tell me a little bit more about, why that certification is important to you and why, it's on every bag, right? You stamp it on your bags.
I do not stamp it on the bag, but we
Oh,
are women business certified, and we've been certified for a long time. It's interesting. Years ago, I became women business certified. I'm 100% woman owned, so I was like, why not become women business certified? And years ago, I became certified, and the certification was kind of expensive, and it was a big process, and nobody cared. So at some point, I kind of let it lapse, and then years later, I decided to renew it again. I could kind of afford the fee more. And it's really been something that people appreciate more. So it's been a really awesome kind of shift to kind of see that people are like, oh, you are women business certified. Like we care, we appreciate that. So it's been really wonderful to kind of see that change over time.
I love it. And have you built a team or is it still like you running most of the show here?
So we're a small team, actually almost all women. And yeah, we're a small team, and I try to kind of keep it lean and focus really on creating like the highest quality ingredients. It's still handmade in really small batches. I'm very hands-on in the process, so really trying to keep that handmade artisan feel.
Has there ever been a time in your journey where you're like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure I can do this. I'm not sure this is going to take off. I'm not sure I have the funding. I don't know. Like, have there ever been these moments of doubts for you? And can you share a story with us?
Yeah, I feel like I probably feel that a lot. I think that it's a stressful industry. There's been so many changes over the years. So yeah, I mean, I feel like, for instance, one example is one of my contract manufacturers like went out of business abruptly. And so I was like, oh my God, like it can take like 6 months to get ramped up with a new contract manufacturer. So things like that, I feel like it takes a lot of resilience. I think the food industry is very difficult. Obviously, I have nothing to compare it to, but I think it's a really difficult industry. So it's sometimes like you feel down and there's so many national brands entering the market. And so it's harder for the more specialty products like myself sometimes. So, yeah, I definitely feel that way at times. But, I love what I do. I'm grateful for my customers and I get like amazing customer emails. So I feel like that's kind of what makes me so happy.
Has building this business changed you, like personally? Have there been different sacrifices that you've had to make in your family or even your career? I'm curious how this has changed you.
Yeah, no, I definitely think it's changed me. I think it's made me feel more capable than I thought of myself. But there have been sacrifices. When I created the business, I really wanted a work-life balance. I have two young children, and I chose not to go to trade shows. I wanted to be home with the kids. My kids sometimes struggled when I was traveling. So I really tried to travel as little as possible. And I think that early on, that definitely impacted me. But I'm so grateful for the balance, for my family, and I feel like I don't regret any of my decisions. But it definitely um, is always. I'm sure for any working parent, it's a challenge to try to balance working and having a family.
Yeah, I bet. And I see a lot of these brands at trade shows. It's a lot of work. Have you went to any of the shows like Expo West or anything like that?
Yeah, so I went to Expo East, I think twice, and maybe Expo West twice. So yeah, there was so much fun, but a ton of work. And so yeah, I mean, at this
Yeah.
point, our last show we actually went to was during COVID, and we like had our whole booth set up, and then there was like announcement over the PA saying that the show was shut down because of COVID.
Right. Wow.
That was the last time we did a show because I was like, okay, I think it's just good for me to be home and things like that.
That was wild because
Yeah, it was
everyone was set up and then, yeah, sorry, kids,
wild.
go home.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay. All right. So if you could go back to Jessica in 2009, who, wide-eyed starting this fun business that her husband's encouraging her to do because he loves her granola, what piece of advice would you give your younger self?
I think I know I just talked about trade shows, but I think I would have gone to trade shows before I had kids, and kind of done that more and maybe not been so afraid. I feel like I've always kind of been afraid to take risks. So I think that I wish I'd maybe kind of gone to trade shows early on, especially when I was like new in the market and there were no other gluten-free granolas and really kind of help spread the word. One of the things that I'm not great at is marketing. I kind of like to be invisible, so I'm not great at like projecting myself in trade shows or online or in social media. I'm a little more shy and quiet. So I think that's always been a bit of a challenge.
Yeah, I had to pull Jessica out. I'm like, I want to interview you for my podcast. She's like, I don't know. So,
I
yes, I can attest you are definitely a little shyer, but I think you have just such a great story and great energy. And so I appreciate you sharing it with us. Would you be up for a few rapid fire questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. All right, which of your granola flavors is your favorite and why?
Definitely chocolate chip because I love any excuse to have chocolate.
You're my people. I love it. What ingredient would you not ever put in your granola?
Oh, there's so many. I would never do high fructose corn syrup. I'd never do artificial colors, artificial flavors, chemical preservatives. I'd never do any of, I feel like a lot of those ingredients are just toxic and not good for you. So,
Yeah, I love that. I love that focus on quality ingredients, and it's important. And I think we're seeing a reckoning with that right now. Like a lot of brands are coming up and
fascinating.
saying what's
Mhm.
not in them, not what's in them,
Totally.
but what's not in them is more
Exactly.
important sometimes. What is the best advice you've ever received?
When I worked at Zingerman's, they said value what you sell. And I feel like that's so important just for all of us to kind of value ourselves and value what we're contributing. So I think that was really helpful.
Yeah. Oh, I got chills. That's a good one. What's one thing you wish you were better at?
Definitely marketing.
Marketing. Right. You mentioned that already. What's your favorite book, podcast, or show right now?
I just finished The Frozen River. I don't know if you've read it, but it's excellent. I've started getting into historical fiction, and it was just
Mm.
a book. It took place in the 1700s and it was
Are
really
you a
interesting.
big reader? Is that what you do to unwind or?
I like to bake. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, I don't have as much time to read as I'd like. So it's hard to find time, but when I do.
I hear ya. And one last rapid fire question. Tell me about another gluten-free brand that you really admire, and not your own, of course, but another one.
Yeah, of course. I really admire Ethel's. Have you heard of, do
Yes,
you guys get your,
they will be on my podcast as well, if not already.
oh,
Yeah.
funny. Yeah, they're amazing. They're a great company. They're another local business. They're great to kind of bounce ideas off of. They're the sweetest people, and their bars are delicious.
Definitely. There's actually a few Michigan gluten-free brands that I've been learning
Hmm.
about lately. It must be a little gluten-free hub up there.
Yeah, isn't it funny? It's so nice though to be able to connect with other brands, and we all kind of started around similar-ish times too.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. Okay, so just to wrap things up, what's next for Jessica? So you have anything in the pipeline, any new flavors, any new products coming out?
So yeah, we're always experimenting and working on new things. So nothing specific. And if customers ever have suggestions, we love customer ideas. But yeah, I'm always kind of brainstorming and trying to figure out what the next flavor, new product will be. So
Awesome. And where can people find this delicious granola that we have been talking about for the past half hour?
no, so if you can always look on our website, we have a store locator, but we're sold nationwide Whole Foods. We're sold at Wegmans, Harris Teeter, Meyer, natural grocers, Target. So yeah, various
Amazing.
stores. And you can always go
Actually,
on our website.
I have to ask you this before we end too, because like you said, you don't really go to a lot of trade shows. How did you make so many amazing connections with all these brands? That's usually why a lot of the brands go to these trade shows to make connections with Whole Foods and Target and things. But you have those connections. How did that happen?
We were just really lucky. We would just do category review meetings, things like that. So nothing special. Just
Just the
kind of,
hustle.
yeah, exactly. Just trying to reach out and I guess keep trying. So a lot of
That's
no's
amazing.
along the way,
Yes.
of course. So
I have learned no's are free, right? No's are free. They don't cost you anything. All right. Well, thank you so much, Jessica. I really appreciate you sharing your business journey with us. And if you have not tried Jessica's Natural Foods granola, you got to go try them. They're so delicious. Go to your local grocery store and pick up a bag or order some online. You'll love it. Huge clusters, delicious flavors. So, thank you again, Jessica, for giving us a sneak peek into how it's all come together and unwrapping your business for us today.
no, well, thank you again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to Gluten-Free Unwrapped. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone in your gluten-free circle. You can connect with me, Jenny, on Instagram at GoodForYouGlutenFree, and be sure to check out my carefully curated celiac-friendly subscription boxes at lovemeglutenfree.com. I'll return next week to unwrap more inspiring stories from the people shaping the gluten-free world. Until next time, stay strong, eat well, and remember, you don't have to do this alone.